I realized when I was thinking about you and about doing this that how interesting it was that when I met you, you came into the Jewish Braille place,
Yeah.
and I just met you guys. I knew you were an actress. I mean, besides that, I didn't know anything. You sat down in front of the mic, and you told me your life. You performed your life story for me. I mean, what an interesting way to get to know someone. Right there, just like everything performed for me, and you were looking right at me,
Right.
right through the glass.
I was looking at you and getting absolute wonderful vibes from you
Yeah.
for everything I was saying. It was wonderful. And you were the barometer of this show for me, because I was elated after I finished. I was told only one act, only 50 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But after I was through with the first act, you said, go on with the second act. You couldn't wait to...
Yeah.
And I was thrilled. And I said, oh my God, it's a good show.
Yes.
It's a good show.
Yes.
So thank you.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, you were very important to me.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
When did you decide to do that? And what
The
was
show?
there? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was a long period of time, many years, that I would go to California for 6 months at a time, and here 6 months at a time. And Bob would stay here with the kids and take care of the house and take care of everything. I mean, I called him 5 or 6 times a day, but we were separated for all that time. And I was fortunate enough during that time to get a lot of television shows. Television and soap operas and film, and I was working on it. But I allowed myself to stay there only 6 months, because after all, I have a husband and a family. And but when Bob retired, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, that I'll come home and stay home with Bob, and I'll get some work here if ever there is work or whatever. And when I had lunch with Beata shortly before I left, she said, why don't you write your own show? I said, B, I'm not a writer. I'm an actress. She said, write your show, and then you'll never have to wait by a phone to wait for an agent to call you. Well, I dismissed the thought until I came home, and I'm a lifetime member of the Actors Studio. So I was starting to go back to the Actors Studio. I said, what a perfect place. I'll listen to B, you know. I'll write my own show. And it was there at the studio, with the studio facilities, that I wrote my first act. And I presented it to my colleagues at session. And they were most enthusiastic. One of the members stood up in the balcony and yelled out, it's gold, it's gold. Okay. So I was very encouraged. And then they said, well, now you have to write a second act. A second act? I mean, it's not the easiest thing. Anyhow, I wrote a second act, and we have a full show. The show runs approximately 90 minutes. Yeah. At one time, we did it in 2 acts so the people can go out, but I felt that wasn't as good. I wanted the momentum. So they're warned all before the show to go to the bathroom, and then I run the show for 90 minutes.
That's got to be crazy, because it's just you.
And it's just me on stage, and Bob is right there encouraging me, and he's on the boombox and with the music. And I couldn't do the show without Bob, quite frankly. Bob now is my director, and we sit down and discuss the cuts that we're going to have, and what works and what doesn't. So it's like a story. It's like Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. Let's do a show. So the 2 of us, with our little suitcase and props, go off to wherever we're called. We don't advertise. Yeah. I'd love to advertise, but I don't. And every job that we've gotten has been word of mouth. And that's really the best way, because you know that they want you. And that. So it's like, it's great. It's been fun, sometimes very trying. I don't think Bob was very happy at the beginning to be roped into this. He wanted to enjoy retirement, but I don't let him. Yeah. And again, I really could never do this without Bob.
And he knows the show as well as you do.
He knows the show as well as I do.
Yeah.
Well, he'll say, Anna, you forgot that line.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But
when you wrote it, I mean...
Oh, let me tell you how I wrote it. I didn't sit down and write it.
Right.
I'm not a writer. But on the bus, walking through the streets, sitting in Starbucks, I would vision what I wanted, and I would think of it, and then sometimes I'd carry a mic, and I would jot my ideas down, and then walking. They all thought I was a crazy lady, walking and talking, or on the bus talking, and that's how I did it. Not with pen and pencil,
great idea,
not
yeah.
with paper, just with reviewing the thought, reviewing the stories, reviewing my memories, reviewing this, and as soon as I felt that I had hit something that is acceptable, then I'd write notes to myself so that I would not forget it, But that's how I wrote the show. So I'm not a writer,
Yeah.
But they say, now you wrote something, you're a writer. Can't accept it, I'm not a writer. But it was a happy, emotional thing for me to do all this, because I relived all these wonderful things that have happened to me. I've been very lucky, Peter. I've had a really magical life, even with a lot of the heartaches, a lot of the tears, a lot of the disappointments, a lot of family things that have been distressing. But, I mean, what could be better? I have a career. I'm a working actress, which is fantastic in this profession, to be a working actress for 50 years. Come on, let's face it. And even now, I just came back from California. Did I tell you?
No.
I did a movie with Adam Sandler. And I must say, he's magnificent. For anybody who doesn't like him, please change that. He is fantastic. So I did that movie with him, and now I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm up for something really major. So I'm in it. So what could be better? I have a career that has weathered 50, I got to tell you, 60. I don't say 60 all the time because I don't want to date myself, But it's been 60 years, and I've been working. And I mean, people don't know I'm not a star, and it's just as happy, because all the stars I know who are my friends are divorced, and no, nothing's worth giving up my husband and my family. And that you'd be forced to, because you have no other life, right? So I was spared that. At first I was unhappy about that, because I'd love to have a series. I still want a series at this stage. It's work, and but when you're young and you have that, it could be detrimental. At this stage in my life, I think I could handle both. So maybe it'll still happen, and maybe it won't. And if it doesn't happen, it makes no matter. I've had a great, I say, journey, and it was a wonderful journey.